All right, let's talk Hellish Court.
All right.
How did you find out about Hellish Court?
I think I literally saw. I think it just the YouTube algorithm understands me and knew that I wanted to see it. To be honest, I think I just saw the trailer like that. It was something social media, that's for sure. I saw that, and I think it was at the beginning of COVID type thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, I could totally um, hop on that and play that because with COVID hitting and everything, I was in dire need of something swordplay, and nothing was really hitting that itch. And I saw this game, I'm like, yeah, that could do it. I can do that.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a really simple thing of like that looks cool. Early access, let's see what it is. Supposed to be using like actual physics to do things rather than like coded. I mean, I don't know how this works, but like hard coded hitboxes and pixels and shit. It's actually like a simulation-ish type thing. That's up for debate too. I don't really give a damn, but it seemed fun because things were actually interacting.
So when you got the game and you played it, what were some of the things you remember noticing in the beginning that stood out to you?
Straight up, that Gideon was a god, and it was so fun to play him because he took way too many hits for no reason. That was the funniest thing. I recorded some matches with my other fencing friend when it first came out, and I'm sad that I don't have that anymore. But we had so much fun. I wanted to make a video of how Gideon could just tank hits, and I think we punched each other like 10 times in a row. Like we were both playing Gideon, and it was the funniest shit I've ever seen in my life. But that was one thing that stood out to me. But also, um it felt good. It felt like a proper simulation in a way. Like there are certain aspects that I liked, certain things that were buggy but like expected for a game. But it wasn't because I played Soul Calibur before. It wasn't Soul Calibur. It had elements of like you have sword fighters, they have limb hits and you move around like it's not just forward and backward, but it had a different feeling with it with the back and forth, like the fact that you can with the saber characters you can go back and forth and like trade blade hits until someone messes up and you get the cut. Like that's something I haven't experienced in a sword fighting game before, and that was fun. That was really cool. The fact that there was a give and take that could be had like an actual sword fight.
So how well does your playstyle transfer into the game? What parts of it work? What parts of it don't work?
For me, I'm a defensive trap style fencer, which you wouldn't know by watching me play Marie because I'm way too balls deep with Marie. But that's only because people get mad when you play Marie that way. People get mad when you play Marie properly. So I go on a little bit of the more adventurous side of Marie. So my answer is it translates too well. So I do other things to try and get creative and stuff. And also because she's like death by a thousand cuts depending on what version you're playing, you kind of have to be that careful, or you have to go really hard and try and get that one hit where it's undeniably her point. But even at that, it's like a Star Wars. You can stab someone through the gut sometimes, and they still live type thing. So it depends. It translates, but it depends on the version of Marie. I would say whether I can get those like 2 hit kills or if I have to do 7.
So what is realistic and unrealistic about Hellish Court?
Um, I would say what's realistic is how punishable doing a move at the wrong time is. Like as soon as you mess up and someone understands that, like someone who knows what their moves are and their angles are, they can immediately take you out if you're impatient and stuff. I really like that. The requirement for distance management in the game is kind of crucial, like a real sword fight. If you get too close and you do a move, it loses its I want to say it's kill factor, but that's not a word. It's lethality because you're too close for the momentum to do enough damage. That kind of comes into account sometimes in a game, more often than not. Sometimes it doesn't, and it's big sad, but it's fine. Um, I think that's pretty realistic. Um, when it doesn't bug out, the blade interactions are super satisfying. So I find that kind of realistic. On the saber side, less on the point weapon side, because you anyway, we'll get into that later. Um, but yeah, it's really the distance management and the punishability of moves that I think is the realistic part. It's just like, yeah, you messed up this way in a very obvious way. You're immediately done. There's no contest here. So the patience required in this game, because of the punishability and the distance management, makes it feel more real than other games that I've played. That is what I'd say. Yes.
That leads me into a question from one of our listeners called Nicola. His question is,
Yeah.
what do you think of Long Guard in Hellish Court?
Um, I think it's a great start, but it is kind of not enough, is what I'd say. I think it's a great idea. But I've made a video on this before. So for me, one suggestion I have for Long Guard is when you're in Long Guard, your right thumbstick on your controller should be able to control your point. So you'd be able to point where you want based on where the thumbstick is. And that way you have active parries and active ways to get around Long Guard. Because the fact that Long Guard automatically means you can't thrust is ridiculous in one way, because it cuts off so many options for characters. But if you make it manual, then it creates an interaction where people have to think with their brains to defend or attack when it comes to thrusting. Also, just realistically, if you hold your arm out long enough, a thrusting weapon person, like a thrusting attack, they'll just take your blade and thrust with control of your weapon. Like it's not actually a deterrent. It's actually a target. It's a useful thing. In the game, you can blade beat, but with a point weapon, you would just bind it and go through. Like you'd have control of it if the person is just holding it out there without moving the actual tip around or disengaging, as we call it. So I think it's a great base for better things later, is how I'd say it. But right now, it's kind of insufficient.
What you're describing, it reminds me of the game called Fight Night, the boxing game,
Okay.
and you could use the thumbsticks to like change what punches you do instead of just pressing triangle and X.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. That's kind of cool. I
yeah,
didn't know
yeah,
about that.
yeah. It's a pretty awesome game. Back in the day, but yeah, I haven't thought of using the thumbsticks for Hellish Court. That's a good idea.
Yeah, sorry to the keyboard boys, but I mean, get a controller.
Yeah, that's what I tell them. Get a controller.
Well, that's why you need one for a tournament. You get a controller. And I understand that the keyboard is like when you're playing on your own, it's all good and all type of stuff. But for when we're running tournaments using Parsec or anything, oh no, just get a controller.
Yeah, could you actually talk about that? What are some of the challenges in running a tournament? Because you're well known for running tournaments in the Hellish Court world.
Um, First off, it's whether your equipment can handle it. Now mine can, which is nice. But when it's barely scraping by, it gets really weird. This game isn't the heaviest thing now that I've had my new equipment, but that's that. The hardest thing about running tournaments, I would have to say it's not even the tournament itself. It's doing all the stuff on OBS, like changing the names on time, keeping the scores updated. Like I run 2 screens, so I'm lucky. I don't know how like people like Warden and stuff do it with one screen or like a laptop or something. Like that's madness. You need 2 screens. It's a whole operation. You need to know who's going up next. You being an announcer type while doing all the background stuff, basically like a tournament secretary, I think is juggling all the hats. I would say juggling all the hats. And also when people don't have good connections, that's probably the worst. When people can't connect or something's going wrong or Parsec decides that it's not your day. It's all these little things that add up. But I think being the person with all the hats is the hardest part, while also maintaining an entertaining stream on whatever platform you're on.
But that leads me into questions from our listeners.
Okay.
I'll combine the questions into one. The first one is from Piet-0. Will he be
Okay.
coming back to the server and be back to hosting his awesome events? The second question
Oh.
is from Locke. He says, ask man to come back and host. I never got to play in his tournaments.
I do want to come back. Right now, I coach epee 6 times a week. And I'm kind of not that I'm doing it on my own because I do have a fencing club and stuff, but I'm basically an independent worker. So that takes a lot out of me. And then I'm also trying to make Canadian team for my weapon. So I have to train myself. So it leads to a lot of scheduling that I'm not really good at. But I do want to do it now. Now that I have upgraded my PC this summer, and we did that test stream like a few days ago to see how it went. It went really well. There was no drops in my stream. It was clean. Nothing slowed down. I do want to come back. I do want to run something. I will be like away every few weekends to fence in real life, wherever I might be. It might be here. It might be across the country. I don't know where. But I do want to try and make like a monthly, what's it called?
Event.
Appearance. Yeah, appearance and event. Yeah, like if I'm not running it, I want to participate in something at least every month. That's my minimum goal. As I've figured out a schedule. Now, can I stick to it? That's a whole nother thing. But that's what I'm trying out right now. I will be coming back. That's why I've been trying to chat up in the group and stuff. But like when you're trying to reach out to me, sometimes I don't look at Discord for a few days just because in real life I am running around, driving around. I'm responsible for like over 30 fencers and stuff, and they want to compete, and I have to make sure they're ready. And I have to and I actually care about like my students, so I'm not just teaching them as soon as it's done. I leave them alone. Like I'm also helping guide them. And anyway, I'm an active participant, so I don't like doing things halfway. So either I'm in the server, I'm not in the server when I'm interacting. When I'm there, I'm fully there. When I'm not there, I'm like 1 foot in because I'm also a mod. So if we need to talk about stuff, I pitch in if people message me. But yeah, I do want to be there. I do want to be there. And I want to do fun stuff.
Would you prefer like double elimination, single elimination, round robin? What would you pick?
I'm of the opinion that depending on the numbers you pick your tournament, round robin is fun, but I think it's either single or double. If you don't have a certain amount of people, let's say you only have like 16 people, double elimination makes sense because then you have that hype of that returning star coming up and maybe winning the whole thing. I love that concept. I think it's super fun. But streams can go on long because of all the connection stuff and all that. I think single elimination is the way to go. If we're really testing who's the best, then one shot you got one match. This is a historical fencing game. It's not fencing, sport fencing. Prove your worth type thing.